Welcome to each and every one of you to my new video where we are going to be going over Master Yi. So my goal behind this video is to make you an overall a better Master Yi player and give you a better understanding of the champion as a whole. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lowfit. I do educational content, do tips videos, guide videos, and I also stream here on YouTube. If you want to hit that bell button and ask me any questions live on stream, I am really open to that. I also pride myself on being extremely interactive with you guys. So if you have any questions for me, I'm going to put a link to my Discord down below in the pinned comments, and I also have timestamps at the top of each one of my pages because I just really like timestamps when I watch videos. If I don't really find a particular part interesting or I already understand the concept, I just want to skip to the parts where I really want to know, so I make sure to put those in all of my videos. And with all of that out of the way, guys, let's get into the first tip. Alright, in jumping into tip number one, I want to talk a little bit about your abilities and how you can use them in a flexible manner, which is really going to open up a little bit more plays for you when you are looking to play Master Yi. So, how I want you guys to start looking at your Q, W, and R as both offensive and defensive tools. The only thing that it is in his kit that is purely offensive, in my opinion, is the Wuju style that just gives true damage. But when you're using your Alpha Strike, you are hidden and you go, they are not able to throw targeted abilities at you. You're not able to take damage unless there is some sort of bug in what's going on. So make sure that when you're looking to use your Q, say you're doing something that is like a Graves, for example, a champion I just did a really recent video on that has a very telegraphed burst combination when he shoots out his Q, and then maybe he gets an extra reload with his E, and then he looks to R. This is when you want to be looking for your Q and looking to invulnerable and become untargetable to those abilities. So make sure that you're looking at this as both an offensive and a defensive tool. Do not just Q into an enemy unknowingly thinking that you're and you don't really know how the one-on-one's going to go, and they have all their burst up and you still have a lot of time on your Alpha Strike before you can get a second one off. So understand that you can use this both offensively and defensively. With meditation, you can use this the same exact way in this kind of situation when you are looking to, maybe you've chased someone down and they are getting right under the tower, and you are looking to just finish them off under the tower. And how you can look to use your W offensively is to maybe just wait for one of the tower shots, or just do a really quick type of W tap where you're able to just get a damage reduction and then get outside of the range of the tower. So you want to start looking at that as an offensive tool, not just to maybe sustain a little bit in the jungle. As well as the Highlander, it's obviously an extremely strong offensive tool when you're able to just really run really fast into the enemies and look for those massive pentakills when you are playing Master Yi. But if you are in late game scenarios and they are trying to get you, they're trying to pick you, maybe you're pushing out a wave or taking a jungle camp and a bunch of champions try and get on you, you want to look to use your Highlander to run away, as well as the death timers can get extremely long and they can start getting objectives if they have killed you. So start understanding your kit in a different way in which these three abilities can be used both offensively and defensively. Alright, and that will wrap up my first tip for Master Yi. Alright, and getting into tip number two, I want to talk a little bit about itemization and how you can look to effectively use it to really optimize your play when you are being Master Yi. The number one pet peeve of mine is when I do OPGG reviews for people and I see that they build the same exact thing every single time, no matter what kind of enemies they're playing, no matter what the game state is, and they are just really struggling to get better results. And you really need to be looking at the game state and start trying to think of it as maybe a puzzle of like being curious about, are there better builds for different situations? And the answer is definitely yes. You want to look for better builds for these situations. They might not be optimal DPS, but they might be better for the situation. A great example is something like a Wit's End against a lot of AP burst that is not going to have enough sustained damage to take you down all the way, and then you're also going to get the magic resistance to reduce a bit of their damage. If they have a lot of really high impact ults like Fizz or Zed, I always use that example of a really high impact ult, but then they're not as effective after they use that ult. Guardian Angel can be extremely strong, and it will discourage a few people from using their big abilities on top of you when you have a Guardian Angel up. If you are looking to be a little bit tankier, need a bit more movement speed, need to be able to survive a little bit, Dead Man's Plate is good. But the key to this is to balance. You need to get as you just need enough damage to be able to kill people at an extremely quick pace, as well as enough tankiness so you don't fall over in that time period. So you want to use your defensive items to buy you a window of time where you're able to use your offensive items to their fullest extent and really start understanding, is this team a very strong, consistent damage team? Is this like an example would be like a Tryndamere, a Jax, a Jinx, like things that auto attack are really auto attack heavy. Things like Vamp won't be as effective as against things like Burst, where you're able to maybe absorb a little bit of the burst with your W and then heal up with your lifesteal and really get away with surviving quite a bit longer. So just start getting an understanding of that and adapting your playstyle and your build. Master Yi is an extremely flexible champion that can play with a bunch of different items. If some item kind of calls to you and you think, wow, this might actually be really good in this situation, try it out. I mean, the worst thing you're going to do is just learn that, hey, that was a really poor item for that different situation. I wasn't split pushing enough to make Sanguine Blade really good. So just kind of keep these things in your mind and always go over your OPGG review after you played like 10 or 15 games and see, oh, that really worked in that situation, and continue that kind of playstyle with Master Yi. And that will wrap up tip number 2. Okay, in getting into tip number 3, I want to talk a little bit about comps and how Master Yi can work into different comps. Now, you're going to struggle a bit if you go into certain matchups. I'm not saying that you shouldn't absolutely never pick Master Yi into certain matchups, but Master Yi can struggle. The game will be harder if you pick Master Yi because he's extremely susceptible to very CC heavy teams where he's able to kind of get locked up by the backline. For example, I'd say that Master Yi is one of his biggest obstacles is a really just tanky Nautilus that is going to come out of the support role, or maybe extremely rarely out of the top role, or just things like Braum, or there's a lot of tanks that can throw a lot of CC Master Yi's way, as well as something like Leona that might be able to lock him down a bit. So if you're lucky enough to get maybe a little bit lower in the pick order and you see your team's panning out, it has a lot of late game and the enemy team has a lot of CC, Master Yi might not be the optimal pick. Now, I'm not saying don't pick it if you're Master Yi one trick, but you might want to develop a more balanced champion pool to not always have to just revert to playing Master Yi, because it's a very polarizing champion. It's a very old champion, so a lot of people know what you're going to try to do on Master Yi, and they're going to try different strategies and become CC heavy to lock you down in different situations. So put a little bit of forethought into it, and if it just is a terrible situation for you, if it's something like a Braum, a Nautilus, a Poppy, and just like a really tanky team that's super CC heavy, maybe just develop a safe secondary pick that you can look to use when you are just in a rough spot and your LP might get saved a little bit. All right, and that will wrap up tip number 3 for Master Yi. Alright, I want to talk about optimal team fighting with Master Yi, which I think is extremely important because I see a lot of low elo players, when they go on Master Yi, they really just kind of run in there and they try and brute force a lot of situations that would be a lot better served if they approach the fights differently. So how you want to look at it is you really do not want to just approach in an extremely predictable manner, because that is the easiest way to CC. If you're able to flank the enemy at all, that is going to be great. And when you are playing Master Yi, you are one of the highest consistent damage champions in the game. So how you want to look to use your allies sometimes, particularly when you're in solo queue and you have unknown quantities on your team that aren't really playing too consistently, maybe they do really well one team fight, another team fight they just get one shot, you want to use them as a bit of a bodyguard, or like just someone that can eat up time of your enemies while your higher consistent damage is going to be on their backline. So how I would look to approach this team fight, if my allied team was here and the enemy team was there, I would wait for a commitment of CC or a high impact ability from a enemy frontliner and wait for them to start hitting the frontline, to start engaging on each other. What this is going to cause is it's going to cause that there's going to be less focus on you. There aren't going to be just 4 people that all of a sudden turn on you because you've overextended a bit past your team with your increased movement speed and queued in. This is going to just provide a lot of chaos in their ranks where their front line is engaging our front line, and then they don't really have any peel for their backline, and you're really just able to make a mess of the team fight. And Master Yi just loves really messy, spread out team fights where he's able to focus down one target at a time and kind of rotate to into the different champions as he is taking down the higher value targets at the start into the lower value targets at the end, and really just putting an insane amount of damage and pressure on. So always look for flanks when available and wait for the commitment of the teams before you jump in. And this is going to pay a huge amount of dividends because people are going to be so much less likely to attack you, and you're less likely to get just dogpiled on, which happens a lot to Master Yi when people are looking to contain him if they are already committed to fighting the enemy champions. Because a lot of people in solo queue, their mentality is like, oh, that guy should be able to deal with it. That guy should be able to deal with it. It's a one-on-one. They should be able to deal with it. When a lot of the times there's something like a Leona CCing your tank in the front, but they should be CCing and peeling the Master Yi off in the back line. But people are just really not going to be doing that. So if you're in lower elo, if you're from something from Iron to like Diamond 4, you can really thrive with flanking on Master Yi. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and getting into the final tip, I'm going to go over two different things. One is going to be a little bit more about the optimal Master Yi pick, and that is when you already have really strong lanes that are going to enable you a bit more to just power farm out those early levels when Master Yi is quite weak. For example, those kind of lanes look like an Alawi in the top lane that not only thrives in the 1v1, welcomes 1v2s with her tentacles coming down, or something like a LeBlanc that is really mobile in the mid lane and is a bit of a lane bully, and then something like a Draven Leona in the bot lane. That would be an ideal team setup for Master Yi because he has a lot of strong lanes that he can work around if he's looking for a gank, and that also can hold their own when they are really working, when Master Yi is working on scaling up. So kind of put this into your head when you are in Champion Selective and you see your allies hovers. Is this going to be a good Master Yi pick, or do you have something like a Vayne in the bottom lane that's going to take forever to scale, something like an Anivia in the mid lane that's going to take forever to scale, something just really poor like Janna with early lane pressure, and then something in the top lane that is just really requires a lot of scaling, something like a Jax that can really get beaten down, or something like a Nasus that can just get camped out of existence. That's going to be a rather poor Master Yi pick because they need lane pressure to help them scale. So when you're playing Master Yi, you do not want to just be playing with a bunch of hyper-scaling champions. Sometimes it's nice to get some early and mid-game powered champions on your team to build a bridge over to your extremely long late game. Now, there are ways to kind of bridge that early and mid game by maybe buying more early AD and not trying to go too much into the attack speed. I remember there was a certain duration where a lot of people were getting like early serrated Dirks, where they were just getting a little bit more early and mid game pressure on Master Yi, but that is, I just think that you shouldn't just put yourself in that situation beforehand. If you're just looking for an earlier mid-game jungler, something like an Olaf might be a bit better than a Master Yi if your team already has a bunch of late-game scaling. So look to play that out in a way that is going to be a bit more beneficial for your team, and look to pick Master Yi in ideal spots, and it will become, I think, just an amazing pocket pick that you can pull out for yourself when you are looking to do that. The second thing I want to talk about in this final tip is how Master Yi scales. Now, with any champion that has a lot of just base damage, all these numbers are base. They don't have any kind of percentage true damage. Now, the attack speed is really nice, and that scales pretty well, but it isn't something like a Fiora or something like a Vayne and something like a Kai'Sa. Those things scale extremely well because they have the percentage items, so they scale well off levels. Now, Master Yi scales extremely well with items with his really high base attack speed and a really nice fluid kit that can work quite well in certain situations. So how you want to take advantage of your certain type of playstyle and your champion style is you want to eat up as much minions as possible. If there isn't something extremely important on the map like an Infernal Drake, and maybe your top laner backed and there is a wave pushing under tower, you want to look for maximizing your farm as much as possible. If you're ahead of the enemy jungle, you want to start invading his jungle and getting his really high value target camps and start pushing your lead even further, because if there's one thing that really separates a good Master Yi from a poor Master Yi, and that is their ability to acquire a lot of resources in a rather shorter time than their counterparts because of their decent clear speed and their ability to after getting a couple items to just shred things with the Q and the fast attack speed. That's going to wrap up my final tip, guys. If you have any questions for me, you can hit me up in the comments down below or join the Discord in the pinned comments. And as always, take it easy.